Okay, we are now into the front of the car here. This is actually the washer bottle. You could see it had overspray, but clearly bolts are not an option. I'm confused why I see so many cars that have to have zip ties holding them together instead of putting the bolts back in. So yeah, that's something definitely new to me. You know, looks like there's a small oil leak on this side. Tensioner looks like it's all right. Intercooler pipe is straight rubbing on that right there. Look at how nice this core support is. It looks like it got caught on something and torn. It got bent out. We got all kinds of zip ties holding stuff together here. This clamp here is not reusable. That's definite. You know, we bent that bolt back from hitting something because it's so low. Back here on the power steering core, you can tell that that had some kind of rub or impact on something. I'd like to see. It looks like the center mount might have been replaced at one time, but I'm not looking in from the side, and I didn't really note if it was dropped. I would say the motor was in here when this thing was painted, because there is, well, at least the motor mount was in here when it was painted. I don't see any overspray onto the motor. Like I said, there's no inner wheel wells on the car either, on either side. You know, that's all stuff that should be in here. There's no splash shield on this side. That is gone. Looks like we got an aftermarket replacement axle here on the passenger side. Alright. Well, here's something good. It's actually missing. There's a triangle bracket that goes up here that's missing. There's a bracket that runs across underneath here on the motor that's missing, because this is supposed to be bolted to it. These are supposed to be bolted to it, but zip ties hold those on. Alright, let's see what else we got here. Driver's side axle is a probably an AutoZone replacement too. What else we got? We got some kind of fluid leak in here. I'll have to see where that's coming from. There's like rub wear on everything. I know this is kind of weird because you're looking straight up, so am I, but we got rub wear on this pipe. We got rub wear on our lines. We got some over here. Sway bar bushings are definitely shot. Yeah. And this here is maybe power steering fluid leaking there. I'm not sure. It kind of looks like it's an ACT clutch flywheel from the back side here. I mean, the pan's clean. Like I said, it's supposed to have something going on here with the motor. That's supposed to be pretty good. What do we got here? We have, what is this? Is that the oil line? The oil feed line, looks like. Right there. Let me see if this is coming in the camera. We have the oil feed line right here, tight on the O2 housing and the exhaust. I know it's wrapped, but it should not be tight against, like you can't get in here. You can pull it away, so something should definitely be done with that. This is, like I said, it's just all different things. We got the cover off of the alternator. There is no heat shield on the alternator. You can run it like that, but longevity wise, it's not a good idea. I see a little black coming out of the wastegate there, so there might be a leak there also. It looks like this seal, I had never seen one do that. The seal cover, it looks like it's an aftermarket trans seal with an OEM center put in there. I don't know if it picked up, you heard the tinking noise, but we touched that, and it kind of just like falls out. That's just amazing. I couldn't imagine doing something like that myself. But hey, alright, now let's see if we can see what's leaking over here. Okay, we have quite possibly the driver's side axle seal is leaking right there. What is this? Oh my goodness. Check this out. This right here is your reverse light sensor switch back here rubbing on the axle. Quality right there, quality. Alright, that is definitely bad right there. Alright, now on top of that, I've now seen the brake hose right here. This brake hose right here is bent. I'm trying to get this light to stay up. I don't know if you can see it in the camera. I'm not watching. This brake hose here is bent up and back and allowing this to touch this, and that's bad. That's definitely bad. We have the core support is bent back on this side here from this thing being so low. It looks like we have, I don't know, maybe that's a catch can or coolant overflow that was installed here at one time, and that was prior paint and body repair, I'm gonna guess. But yeah, I'm kind of tripping on the reverse light here. The control arms were replaced at one time. It has an aftermarket clutch cable, which is kind of clutch hose line, which is kind of cool. Yes, it does have ACT clutch. All right, that's positive. You know, the catch can, I don't know if they were draining it or if that drain's leaking. We got oil all over everything down here instead of, you know, just draining it somewhere where it should go. That's what we did. Alright, now, that is just the front end of this car. Alright. Now, let's see what we got here. Now, this is an extremely long AFR. Wow, that's a weird downpipe. It's got a bong on the top that's blocked off. It's got the O2 sensor going up. And then we got the AFR hole on here, and that is like this sway bar moves up and down. I mean, long term it's gonna wear through this here. What do we got over here? We actually have this boot over here. Looks like it has a pinhole in it, so it's actually throwing grease up onto the coilover over here on this side. And let's see what we see from the back here. Okay, this is also something that I like to see too, because people say that the transmissions in these cars are junk. As you see here, this is a shield, and you can see it's torn. Push this up so I can get this out of here, right? Now, these shifter cables right here, you don't want them laying on your exhaust at all, because heat's bad for that. Even though they do have their heat shields, they're now off of it, okay? So it's very important, if you want to make sure your transmission lasts, and you don't have to buy new shifter cables, to make sure that that is installed correctly. Goodness, what else? What else do we see here? I think, yeah, look at how that, this is your oil line. Down there should be a 90-degree going over to keep it close to the block, and then route it up through on this side, not come straight back. I don't know if I'll be able to get it on video from down here. It's actually missing the top of the 4 bolts that hold the exhaust in. Alright, let's see how we did this modification here with this fuel line setup. Alright. Summit. I mean, you know, I would have had wrapped this with a clamp and somehow mounted this up tighter tighter on the car. I mean, with something similar to what these are. You know, they ran one line and then they have another line, it just hangs here. You can actually see we have maybe scrape. Yep, we got scrapes on here. I think this is just a filter, but still, you know what I mean? There's scrapes on the filter from hitting the ground. too bad, I would say. Not leaking there. What do we got going on here? We got, yeah, we got a nice leak here. This looks like it has exhaust tape wrapped around it. Not quite sure what we got going on here. This is just first time I've ever seen that. Somebody had something hanging up. Good on this side. More zip ties. Ooh, look at this right here. Well, this has rub from hitting something. There's rub here. Not only that, this is a tight curve here. I mean, you know, even for a return line, that's still a tight curve. It's going to take, that's going to build back pressure in your line if this is the return, and that's just not happy. Okay, look, we got, looks like there was fuel here at one time. So let's see what we got going on up here. All right. Now, wish I had a big lift. All right, here's our fuel pump. Now, I'm looking at this, and I don't know if something's seeping. I just can't get a good view from where I'm at. Ugh. All right. Yeah, I would say at one time this thing had a leak going on. It hasn't really been run here since he's got it. So we have to, actually got to get in here and check this thing out. It doesn't have, still running the stock wiring. There's no kind of rewire, no upgrade there. For this build, that's something that should definitely be addressed and taken care of. All right, now we're at the fuel pump, the fuel tank straps. This is supposed to be, yep, actually it's there. We're missing a nut that holds this on. You know, it's the first time I've seen one missing. Everything else pretty much is just, I would say, none of this rear suspension was addressed. It's all original to the car. We have more exhaust tape around another joint here where it's leaking. You know, we're working our way back here underneath this car. This one here, you can see a little bit of black right on there. That's actually looks like it's leaking some. We have, I don't know, zip ties over here. Well, you can see the exhaust is rubbing right there, so that gives you some squeak. Oh, look at this. Like I said, these end links aren't factory, so they were replaced at one time, but this one here is bad. This actually is, yep, this is actually a aftermarket rear sway bar. So I was wrong when I called everything looked like it was all stock back here. But it is an aftermarket sway bar. That's not original. Both end links should be replaced. It's missing. The bushings are damaged there. Laying up underneath here. Looking at that side, doesn't look too bad. This side over here, I would say, see how that's bent right there? That should not be bent like that. So I would say this thing had a light bump on the passenger rear at one time. Alright, what we got over here? And let me see. 30. It actually looks like it's the original bumper cover. So the bumper cover wasn't damaged in the hit. Yeah, you can see where you can see the repair up in there. I don't know how good the camera's getting it. The light kind of shines on it a little goofy. So yeah, it was this looks like it was probably a skin deep repair. As low as it was, or some different tires was on it at one time. You could see that it was rubbing up in there. I don't know if that's camera getting that. Up and around up in there. So I think primer all over the springs from when it was painted. It looks like the calipers were painted red because you got overspray on the spindle, and you know, just normal stuff that happens to cars over the. Well, here's what we've been waiting for. We're actually going to go over the engine bay right now, and you know, kind of check some of this stuff out. Initially, the car did have a battery that held no charge at all. The fuel regulator was zip tied to the handle on the battery. So, I mean, fuel is something kind of important that you don't want to be doing stuff like this with. I'm sure the connections are fine, you know, but still, you want to have this mounted somewhere. Because, let's face it, gas catches fire. Alright. Since we're in this general area, really quick, I don't know if you can pick up, there's some sweat on this hose. That happens. That's normal. It's nothing terrible. But your check valve, you always want your check valve on this side coming right off of here. Okay, what that does is it stops the boost here when you're making boost from going in and filling this, which that might have been part of our problem pushing out some oil down at the bottom out of the valve. So that could be a potential boost leak right there because this is in the wrong place. Like I said, this should be in this hose, not this hose. Okay. Let's see what else. We're over here. We're near the battery. Okay. So here is our fuse box, and there is no bolts holding this in at all. Okay. It has a clip that goes through there into the firewall. I think that somebody had like some kind of wiring or something run down through here at one time. Well, not too bad looking inside. Everything looks like it's all stock and original. Alright, now it's missing the bolt here that helps hold the battery tray in. These are both, I don't know, somebody got them off of a pile somewhere. Now, here is our reverse lights for our transmission. That is not in the plug, that's hanging down around our axle. Here is a temperature sensor covered with dirt because it has no inner fender well. There's the tip sensors, kind of just like hanging in here. What else we got? Something going on here with the turn signals. There should be the boost solenoids are zip tied up here in the front, which, you know, I guess if you want to tuck them, that's fine. Why there's one run to this is a little weird. That's kind of funny looking. Looks like yellow. Not like that. Look at this tape job. Okay, we're getting off subject here. But you can see that's where our boost solenoids are at. They were in there when this thing was painted. Looking at everything here, you know, nothing too crazy. Throttle cables actually run the correct way. They got the harness tucked down underneath here with the, they actually have extenders for the aftermarket fuel injectors, which is kind of cool. They're actually the shorties. That way you don't have to raise this up. I noticed I've had problems with these when you put the long like 1050s in there. This comes up and hits over here. The coating on this is coming off. Oh, hold on here, let me get a flashlight. Now, anytime I see these blue Honda gaskets, I always do some checking here on our intake manifolds. And I come across this side, and it looks like it was actually welded, repaired at one time. I can't tell if it's JB Weld underneath the paint here or what, but it's actually got this ear of the intake is actually snapped off, and you know, that's kind of bad. All right, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, see that little bit of brown there by the top of that cylinder? That tells me that there's possibly a leak there, because there's none here, there, or there, all the whole way across on the head. You know, maybe, you know, the valve cover was replaced, so it could have leaked some at one time, and it got down in there, and that's why that's dark there. But, you know, that's definitely something that needs to be replaced right there off the bat. Okay, now this is also another good one. Now, as you've seen, there's a catch overflow down in that wheel well? Well, it looks like we have a hose coming right off here for our overflow, so it blows out anything that's extra when it gets hot, but it's not deep enough down in there to actually suck it back in. So that's a bad way to have your stuff set up. What do we got here? They actually ran the harness back in behind here. What's this here? Oh, here we go. This here line that runs here, that's our fuel return line. Okay. And it's laying against here, you know, moving because it's zip tied, rubbing on the motor here from vibration, which is definitely a bad thing. Let's see. Anything else? Okay, I mean, you know, at least they're keeping the stuff away from the stuff that's spinning here. I mean, I'm picky, so I'm looking at the alternator and I can see that that's not the right nut on the alternator from the top here. Alright, so we got a cracked intake. Yeah, the rad's not an OEM rad, so it was replaced at one time. You know, we're missing bolts there. That's missing the nut there for that bracket. I'm curious to see. I wonder how many bolts. That's got the wrong bolts holding the bracket into the frame rail. I can see one of them. I'd have to pull the battery to see the rest. We got clamps back here blocking stuff off. The turbo actually, like I said, doesn't look too bad. Looks like it might be leaking there at the drain pipe, which is, you know, looks like it might be damp. That's kind of a normal thing. It does kind of suck. I'm not really a fan of these strut bars when it comes to this stuff, or actually stuff that does this, where it comes out here. You know, long term that could be windshield issues. Seen it in the past, you know. So normal heat, it's got this stuff melted up. But looking down in here, we got, man, it looks like different bolt, or just something was in here trying to tighten stuff down. Ooh, okay, I like checking these too. Hopefully this comes in. Down here on the exhaust manifold, I see it's missing two nuts on this side. It's got the wrong nut there in the middle. It's actually missing the top nut over there. Oh, and if you look, we're missing the one bolt here for the coil pack, which is no major deal. We got 3 out of 4. Alright, let's see what we can see over here. Turbo looks okay down through there. Let's see. Nothing on the top. See, look, this just drives me nuts. When you can sit there and spin an exhaust manifold bolt by hand, that's when you know there wasn't anything installed right for long term. We got the oil sending unit coming out the side of the head here. I mean, it works, but it's not the ideal place. Looks like we got something down there. There's something coming out of the harness. They got modified for something there, so I'm not sure on that one. I mean, you know, other than some definitely needed addressed items, I would say we got an intake, exhaust bolts. Some of the wiring needs figured out. We got a catch can that needs straightened up. And, you know, reverse lights are something you just kind of should have. You know, some places they're not required, I guess. So, man. I mean, it's still a list, and I'm sure that there's going to be more that can be found. You know, there should be a breather on here. I mean, I'm not a fan of no air cleaner on a turbo, but guys run these screens on these big turbos, I guess, you know what I mean. If it's not a daily or anything, it kind of works. I'm also not a fan of, you know, watt boxes wired into wiring, kind of like this one is back here. And you can tell there's there's been a lot of stuff going on with this wiring harness with the blue tape that's on it. It looks like somebody cut back through it on this side. We got blue tape up here. You know, these clamps on this battery, you know, that's just not something you want to see on a car of this magnitude. So, well, right now, we're actually going to try to fix some of this stuff and get it to the point where we feel confident to take this thing for a drive down the road and check out the transmission and make sure this thing actually runs. So we might get some video of that. Depends on how long it takes us to get this stuff straightened out.